We are all by now aware of the tragic shooting that occurred in Orlando, Florida. We know the death toll. We know that 100 people were shot. We know that 49 or 50 of them have now been declared dead. And more may die from their wounds as well. It's a horrific example of violence and anger and hatred gone awry. But in the rush to label it as something and to use it for political reason, many of our leaders rush immediately to the idea that the United States is a violent place and it's full of terror and there are horrible people everywhere because we have guns. And I don't agree. I think actually that we are violent for different reasons than that, and I'll touch on them in a moment. But I first want to say that we're not being given the whole story either. Omar Mateen is going to be investigated fully. That's the shooter's name. He was a Muslim, but he was a Muslim who was born and raised in New York City to a father who was Afghanistan-born and raised, and who also was a refugee and a CIA asset, which is something that's not widely known yet. He's running for president of Afghanistan as I speak. That's what he does. Do you see that in the mainstream media? I haven't. I've seen it in the independent media, Canadian, British media. That's often where we have to look for the truth of most of these circumstances. Omar Mateen as well worked for G4S. We do know that from mainstream media. What we don't know is G4S, like KBR or Halliburton, is an employer of mercenaries. It is the new Wackenhut, basically. So we joke about that they're the mall security guards. Well, no, they're everything from mall security guards to people who are running border patrol, to people who are bringing busloads of convicts back and forth from prison to prison. They handle a lot of very delicate operations. They need to be highly trained, and many of them, like this gentleman, are not. And yet they are cleared to have weaponry they obviously should not have. What I hope is that there is some oversight done to find out why the FBI would clear somebody who has had run-ins and has been reported before by employees of G4S as somebody who is angry and violent and intolerant and who was threatened to kill people. This was happening for years before the shooting occurred. I don't necessarily, as many have done, blame the Muslim religion. Islam is not a religion of hate any more than Christianity is, and most of our mass shootings have been done by white male American Christians. So I'm not going to blame Christianity that we have mass shootings in the United States. What I'm going to ask that we all do is shift focus. This is not about the LGBT community. They certainly were targeted in this instance, and probably very specifically because this man may have been a closeted or repressed homosexual himself. He was apparently a regular attendee at the nightclub Pulse where this event occurred. What I would ask then is we have an emotional issue about an emotional issue. We have a gentleman who is not okay. He is obviously sociopathic. He has been allowed to arm himself. He has been trained by some security forces. And he is a father who is a radical, for certain, and someone who is being controlled by a foreign government on top of that. Why are all these things in place? And the answer is really simple. It's that we do this to other countries every day. We do this. We bomb other countries. We bomb civilian populations. We manipulate their governments. Ask Hillary Clinton about Honduras in 2009 and the illegal coup that occurred there. The innocent people who were killed because we armed and trained and backed a rebel force that wasn't truly a rebel force. It just was going to do what was in our best economic interests. We manipulate governments like this all around the world every single day, and people die every single day. It's not about an AR-15. It's not about fully automatic or semi-automatic. It's not about should we have as many guns as we do. Because rarely are these guns that are used in mass shootings ever illegal weapons. They are usually procured legally and with clearances. Then they're sometimes stolen. But quite frequently they're used by the people who have the clearances. That should mean that we should start to trust our fellow neighbors. If you want responsible gun owners, then you need to have responsible gun owners from your community decide whether or not somebody like Omar Mateen should have an AR-15 in his collection. And I think the people at his own workplace probably would have said, no way. I think his wife, if she was interviewed, probably would have said, no way. He's abusive, and he's psychopathic, and he's really full of hate. He needs therapy. That conversation never occurred. It should. Greens talk about these things, and that's because we're adults, and we do need to stop mass shootings. We don't need to do it by disarming the whole country. And as much as I personally would love a world in which gunpowder was never invented, the genie's out of that bottle, and I'm not naive, and I understand that it is. And as long as we are the largest arms dealer on the face of the earth, we with the Belgians are responsible for 80% of the weaponry sold in this world. I'm not going to tell you that disarming is the right answer. I'm going to say that not being the empire any longer is the right answer. So that when we have people come here from other countries, they're not necessarily coming here fleeing from something we caused. They're coming here because they love the United States of America and want to live here and be a part of it along with the rest of us. I have a brother who owns over 30 rifles and who hunts regularly and who has sidearms and carry permits. I would never, ever feel uncomfortable with him having a gun in my presence. A friend of mine who is gay, who works on my congressional campaign, his father has a carry permit. He carries regularly. I feel really secure knowing that he's near me with a sidearm. I don't think he's a lunatic or a psychopath at all. But I know these people. And all I would ask in the future is that we start talking about an idea of the well-regulated militia intended by the Second Amendment, not to limit your gun rights, but to actually have people within the community decide who actually is responsible and who is not. Be brave and vote green.